I just finished watching Leon and Belal. What do you do? Very real question. I don't know how to act right now. Put myself in there. What do I do? If you're me and you're going to come talk about this fight and tell the audience about this fight, recap it, but it ends in a potential injury. We don't know. We don't know yet how bad this eye poke was. It's very tough to celebrate one of these moments with this hanging over it. I mean, I can just tell you, I'm feeling it right now. Do I come out or do I talk about the great moments by Belal Muhammed when he got double underhooks and had great cage control? Can I tell you that while I was watching Muhammad have these great moments, particularly in the grappling aspect of cage control, I couldn't help but think, what would happen if that was Kamaru Usman with those underhooks and had Leon pressed up against the fence? I think a lot of your minds were probably there too, because we are foreshadowing with this fight. This was one of the few fights that we've had in recent memory where Dana said number one contenders match. If. I realized there was an if and for Leon, but it was still a little bit of clarity, and it's more clarity that we've had in a period of time, not to mention it's in a division that's very murky. So I think a lot of you probably watched it with the same eye that I did, which is what's happening now between Muhammad and Leon, but what would happen if that were Kamaru Usman? Okay. The other side of it is Muhammad. I mean, Muhammad was out there very quick. He was very good with the combinations. And Leon was doing what's called the pull, where a punch is coming right at you, and he would just pull his head back. He'd pull his head back 2 inches, the punch would miss by 1 inch. I mean, it was so impressive. And if you guys happen to go back and watch this, try to look at it from a defensive standpoint of Leon. Punch would be coming at him. He'd dip his head to the left. He'd dip his head to the right. Little movements. Leon was moving 2 inches at a time, and punches were missing by 1 inch. He was calm as could be. Now, that spoke volumes. The fact that Leon still had what we call eyes. You have good eyes. Means you can see when something's coming. You know where to return it. You know how far that target is. You know how far you are from that target. When you have good eyes, that speaks to a level of preparation. And sure, there was a question coming into this fight. Is Leon going to be Leon? Or is this going to be a different guy trying to dip his toe back in the water? Leon's got a number 3 ranking in the world. And could be, we were told by Dana going into this fight, in a number 1 contendership match, right? Title eliminated. Well, he's got to be ready. He's got to be sharp. If this guy looks rusty, forget all those things, all those beautiful things that were said about him. Forget about that number 3 ranking. Leon looked awesome. In the little parts that we saw, and guys, don't forget, even in the spirit of a no contest, which is exactly what happened, which means us, the jury, we are supposed to pretend that we did not see that. That's what a no contest is. We are supposed to make believe that this statement wasn't said or this piece of evidence was not submitted. Well, how do you do that? Okay, so I'm talking about how do you act right now? How do I come and give you guys a recap? What do you do if you're Daniel Cormier, who, by the way, did a fantastic job attempting to interview Leon on the cusp of a fight ending with an eye poke? What do you do if you're Leon, who, by the way, did a perfect job on the fly of the very first thing he said is, I would like to apologize to my opponent. I hope he's okay, and I did not mean to do that. I mean, everybody is handling everything in a tough situation just right, but you're still left with, what does Dana do? What does he do? Does Dana also invoke himself a member of the jury that's going to pretend that he didn't see something that he just saw? Michael Bisping was on the commentary. He said he asked the same question, and Michael Bisping possibly can navigate these waters better than anybody because he's dealt with an eye injury very publicly. Michael Bisping said, well, do we get these guys back together in a few weeks? That's where Dana comes into this. Is that what you do? Do we get these guys back together? Do we say, hey, Muhammad, you get better. Hey, Leon, we saw something there. You're not rusty. You're the guy. Get Kamaru on the phone. Line up a date. What do we do? It's one of those tough spots where everybody take a deep breath. Let's get some time between this. And most important, let's find out how Belal is, because that's a terrible thing to have happen to you. And it's a very hard thing to do. I've always been very light on the guys who break the eye poke rule. Very light on them. Because in my own personal belief, it's a bullseye. In my own personal belief, nobody has ever gone out and done that on purpose. Chuck Liddell had a number of fights and guys kept getting poked in the eyes because Chuck refused to close his hand. John Jones has something where he reaches out openly with his palm and posts on guys. Well, in the process of reaching out to post, he's poked guys in the eyes, but I've never been upset with anybody because it's just a bullseye for me. I don't have good enough aim. If I was fighting somebody, I was mad at him and I wanted to get dirty, I could not, I'm personalizing, I could not resort to going and poking him in the eye. I just don't have that good of timing. I just couldn't get a fan. And I think I'm right, though. I don't think anybody's ever poked anybody on purpose. I know that's not what happened tonight, but I've been very light on guys who do that. For that very reason. But what do you do? What do you do with the rankings? Right? Are we supposed to look at this and say, okay, well, the moments that we did say Leon was winning and the round that we did see completed, Leon won, and therefore Leon won and he should be number 3 in the world and we need to just dust Muhammad to the side. He shouldn't have been a main event. Or can you look at it and say, no, he was figuring himself out. He was getting going there. Or do we not have enough data to do either? It's one of these tough situations. And by the way, I'm not going to bring you the answer today. I don't know. I will be very interested to see if they don't redo this match, then where do both of these athletes go? Something good's going to happen to Leon. Leon looked fantastic, whether you want to accept that or not. In those few moments while he was out there, Leon looked fantastic, not to mention he had a hungry guy coming at him, and I think there's something to be said in sport for momentum. I believe that. Momentum was on Muhammad's side, and Leon was still walking him down. All right, Leon was finding those head kicks, and by the way, maybe with a little bit more power than I remember his old head kicks. There are parts of that fight, and there are parts of the X's and O's that I saw from Leon tonight that were better than when Leon left, where the break did him good, where he clearly buckled down and has been working on his craft. He deserves a lot of praise for that. What do? Do you move him into the title fight on a no contest? Do you default to what Michael Bisping said, which is get these guys back together and they got to do a rematch? What do you do? And then what do you do if you're Kamaru Usman? Do you go call out Leon? Or do you dismiss him and say that wasn't enough and then bring on somebody? I don't think anybody knows how to act right now. And I think before anybody does any acting, they should go about it very calmly. They should be very sober when they do it. Because you are dealing with a foul against the rules that was unintentional and a potential injury happened to one of our own. We don't like that. We don't want that to happen. Deep breath, everybody. If you missed the fight, I just gave you a spoiler alert. No contest. No contest. The one round that was completed did favor Leon. Does that matter? Should it matter? Fight was scheduled for 5. Nowhere in history do we look at one and then determine that that would equate to the other 5. So what do we do? Hold that thought. We're all going to think about it. We're all going to see. Fellow 170 pounders, hold that thought. Don't look for your press or your plug tonight. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Be sobering. Take a break. Let's hear how Muhammad is. Let's make sure that he's 100% fine, that he's going to make 100% recovery. Once we get that piece of information, take the gloves off. We'll have at it.